Yes, get ready for the legal dictation containing 480 words at the speed of 80 words per minute. Let's start. 3 seconds. Start. Such a statement was taken as a sign of inciting rebellion in the country. Later that day, Indira Gandhi requested a complaint President Fakhruddin Ali Ahmad to proclaim a state of emergency. Within 3 hours, the electricity to all major newspapers was cut and the political opposition arrested. The proposal was sent without discussion with the Union Cabinet, who only learnt of it and ratified it the next morning. Before the emergency, the Indira Gandhi government passed draconian laws which would be used to arrest political opponents before and during emergency. One of these was the Maintenance of Internal Security Act 1971, which was passed in May 1971 despite criticism from prominent opposition figures across partisan lines such as CPI's Jyotirmoy Basu, Jan Sangh's Atal Bihari Vajpayee, and the Anglo Indian nominated MP Frank Anthony. The Indira government also renewed the Defense of India rules, which was withdrawn in 1967. Defense of India rules were given an expanded mandate 5 days into the emergency and renamed as Defense and Internal Security of India rules. Another law, Conservation of Foreign Exchange and Prevention of Smuggling Activities Act, passed in December 1974, was also frequently used to target political opponents. The government cited threats to national security as a war with Pakistan had recently been concluded. Due to the war and additional challenges of drought and the 1973 oil crisis, the economy was in poor condition. The government claimed that the strikes and protests had paralyzed the government and hurt the economy of the country greatly. In the face of massive political opposition, desertion, and disorder across the country, and the party Gandhi stuck to the advice of a few loyalists and her younger son Sanjay Gandhi, whose own power had grown considerably over the last few years to become an extra constitutional authority. Siddharth Shankar Ray, the Chief Minister of West Bengal, proposed to the Prime Minister to impose an internal emergency. He drafted a letter for the President to issue the proclamation based on information Indira had received that there is an imminent danger to the security of India being threatened by internal disturbances. He showed how democratic freedom could be suspended while remaining within the ambit of the Constitution. After resolving a procedural matter, President Fakhruddin Ali Ahmad declared a state of internal emergency upon the Prime Minister's advice on the night of 25 June 1975, just a few minutes before the clock struck midnight. As the Constitution requires, Mrs. Gandhi advised and President Ahmed approved the continuation of emergency over every 6 months until she decided to hold elections in 1977. In 1976, Parliament voted to delay elections, something it could only do with the constitution suspended by the emergency stop. Get ready for the general matter dictation containing 480 words at the same speed. Let's start. 3 seconds. Start. In discussing the demands for grants of the Finance Ministry, we have got to see to what extent the administration of this particular ministry has led to the development of our national wealth and the securing of the welfare which our state claims to have in view. Madam, we must try to analyze very carefully the working of this particular ministry because it is not merely a department of the government, so to say, but it is the nerve center of the administration of the country. I would like first to refer to the role of foreign capital because in determining the manner in which the permission of capital issues has been granted by the particular administration, we should keep in our mind to what extent the interests of our nation have been served. I fully endorse the statement which the previous speaker has made so far as repatriation of the investments made by foreigners and of profits are concerned. We have dealt with this topic quite a number of times, and I do not want to reiterate anything apart from only sporting what the honorable member who just now spoke said. I would now like to deal with the investments of foreigners in India. Madam, the government of our country accepted the proposition that in allowing foreign investment, it should come in only in such industry and such form of production wherein our national investors will not come forward and in which technical skill is wanted. There is also one other factor which the industrial policy of our government of 1948 as adumbrated further in 1949 by the Prime Minister laid down. It specifically said that the control and ownership of such concerns should, as far as possible, be in the hands of Indian nationals and the technical know how of our country should be developed. I would like to emphasize the figures that have been put forward for the last few years. From 1947 till the end of 1952 or the early part of 1952, it has been reported that rupees 19 crores of foreign capital have been allowed to be invested in our country. Of that, practically more than rupees 6 crores have been allowed to be invested in managing agency and trading enterprises in our country. Therefore, there is ample justification for the two taxes, the capital gains tax and the excess profits tax. I need not go in detail into all the reasons that my honorable friend has explained earlier so lucidly, but I must say that I entirely agree with them all. Having said this, I would like to say a few words about allocations which have been made to the various ministries in the budget. Stop over.